Hey everyone, this is Jeff with Gadget Prime here with another video, and today I have three major flagships where I'm going to be doing a quick screen comparison for all of you. And I'm going to basically do two different tests. One is with this white background, that it's the same white background from Google essentially, and then I also want to show you guys the differences in some photos that I took with each of these phones and basically comparing them using the same app, which is Google Photos. So first up, we have the screen comparison, and again, these are all in full brightness. Adaptive display is off on the Pixel 2 XL. True tone is off on the iPhone 10, and the auto brightness is also off on the Note 8. So looking at these phones, the brightness looks to be about equal, I think, on camera. But in real life, I have to say that the iPhone 10 and the Note 8 definitely have brighter screens. But in everyday usage, I actually have to say the Note 8 definitely has by far the brightest screen of all three of these, followed up by the iPhone 10. Now, looking at the screens head-on doesn't really pose any issues, but when you start to tilt them, and we'll use the iPhone 10 first, you can see if there's any sort of color shift, and you can see on the iPhone 10 that the more extreme it gets, you can definitely start to see that color shift. And on the other axis, you can see a little bit of rainbowing. That's probably a factor of the lens of my camera, as well as a screen protector that's on these that might be impacting the quality a little bit. But in all reality, you're really seeing the screen here since these all are on full brightness. So minimal color shift on the iPhone 10. Next up, we have the Pixel. And here, you see that pretty significant blue shift off axis, and especially when you tilt it this way. Now, in real life, you can definitely see this, but again, as I mentioned in my other videos in the past, it's not as big of a deal when you're just using the phone every day, and I haven't really noticed too much of a problem. Finally, we have the Note 8. Definitely some color shift, but nothing too significant. I would say this is on par with the iPhone 10. Okay, so moving on to the same photo using Google Photos. I took this picture up in Banff, Canada, and this is the original photo. I took it using the Pixel 2 XL. Gorgeous photo, but each screen kind of shows it a little bit differently. So starting on the right with the iPhone 10, it definitely has probably the most realistic colors to some. However, I will say that these look a little bit washed out to me, and from the memory I have of this day, the scene actually looks a lot closer to the Galaxy Note 8 all the way to the left there. And the biggest difference I would say is actually the water in the sky. It was definitely very blue. I think that gets a little bit lost with the iPhone 10. Maybe I'm not recollecting it very clearly, but that's exactly how it was. Now the difference is the tree line here in the background is actually probably the most accurate on the iPhone 10. It was definitely more of this color, and I definitely give that to Apple in terms of making sure that that was, realistic. But the Google Pixel 2 XL falls a little bit behind the other two screens in terms of how it looks and how it's represented. A little bit greener than it probably should be. It kind of loses a little bit of that detail that the other phones are able to show. But, and it definitely kind of washes together with that green color, and with, doesn't look as pleasant to me as the other two devices. Now, looking at a photo that Google Assistant fixed or changed, it actually looks really blue on the Note 8. And I actually really love that photo. This is actually my current home screen on my phone, because I just love those deep blues. And of course, again, the saturation was cranked up by Google, just because it's all a lot blue in the original photo, and I love the way that it came out, especially on the Note 8. On the iPhone 10, again, it brings it down a little bit. The saturation isn't quite as high. It's not as vibrant as on the Note 8, but it's definitely still a very pleasant picture, very bright, very vivid still in its own way, although you do start to lose some of those highlights and that blueness in the sky and the blueness of the water that I really enjoyed about the Note 8. The Pixel 2 XL, when you look at it, definitely has a little bit more bluish green tint in the sky. You can kind of see how it blends with the tree line here into the sky. It almost looks like there's much more of a halo effect than there is on the Note 8, and definitely more on the iPhone 10. The blue is definitely blue, but it's not the right type of blue compared to the Note 8 and the iPhone 10 to me. But again, Something to note as you guys are looking at these phones, something to keep in mind as you're shopping, if you need the best display ever, I would say it's a toss-up depending on what your preferences are. The iPhone X or the Note 8 will definitely serve you very well. However, the Pixel 2 XL in everyday use, and I've been using it as my main device for about 2 weeks, it has done a good job in everyday use. It doesn't bother me. I don't really think about it. It's only when I start comparing them to different phones, and especially since I got the iPhone X a few days ago, I've been looking and using both of those devices very heavily, and that's one of the bigger differences that I have noticed. But again, I think you'll be happy with any of these phones. They all have their own strengths, their own weaknesses. I'll be doing a comparison on these 3 devices at a minimum in the coming future. So let me know what you want to see when I put that video up. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks everyone.